Audio check, 1, 2. Audio check, 1, 2. Audio check, 3, 4. Audio check. Audio check, 3, 4. Audio check. Mic check, 5, 6.
Good morning, Commissioners Kolkmeyer and Hahn. How are you?
Morning, good.
I'm good.
We know Commissioner Coleman's here too. She's in her office. She's probably on her way. Just a minute.
Awesome. And I see Commissioner Holden. How are you? Excellent.
Doing well.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I'm sorry, I was thinking about an order, not your presentation. So good, glad you're here. Hi, everybody. I'm looking forward to the presentation.
Must be fine. There you go.
Mark, you didn't come to work sick, did you?
Oh, no.
I hear you haven't been well. Hear you've been under the weather.
Yeah. And cold.
Yeah, everybody's getting these terrible colds.
Yeah. I'm feeling good now. Celebrate.
My daughter.
Okay, guys, it is now 1 o'clock and all the commissioners have assembled. So we can go ahead and call the weekly agenda meeting for the Missouri Public Service Commission to order. Today is January 24th. Remind everybody that is calling in or on WebEx to please mute yourself if you are not speaking so that others can hear. We got 4 tariffs and new orders and 1 case discussion and a presentation. Before we do that, I need to announce we are withdrawing the closed discussion for today's agenda. And we also need to approve the minutes from the January 18th, 2024 agenda. So I do know those have been distributed in advance. Commissioners, do you have any changes or questions about those minutes from the 18th agenda meeting? All right, hearing none, make the motion. We'll go ahead and approve those minutes from January 18th, 2024 agenda meeting. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
That is approved by a vote of 5-0. All right, first up, we have tariffs and new orders. First is file number WE 2021-0390. This is the matter of the joint application of Missouri American Water Company and DCM Land LLC for a variance from the company's tariff provisions regarding the extension of company mains. So on May 6th of 2021, Missouri American Water Company and DCM Land LLC, they filed an application for variance from provisions of Missouri American Water Company's then in effect tariffs, which regard to the connection time limit and funding percentage for an extension of Missouri American Water Company's water main into Cottleville Trails development. On October 14th of 2021, the commission issued an order granting the variances requested by DCM Land and MAWC. And on the 16th of 2022 of March, the commission issued a revised order granting variances and granting a waiver. The Office of Public Counsel appealed the commission's decision. The Missouri Supreme Court issued its opinion reversing the commission's revised order, ruling that there was no language in Rule 23 of Missouri American Water Company's tariff that allowed for the variance from that rule. The court concluded that, quote, because there is no language in the rule that allows for variance, the commission does not have the authority to grant a variance from the rule, end quote. So in accordance with the Missouri Supreme Court's opinion, this order will now deny the joint applicant's request for variance. And I recommend we approve this order, version number 1. Commissioner Coleman.
I support the order.
Great. Commissioner Holzman.
I'm in support of the order.
Great. Commissioner Kolkmeyer.
I'm in support.
Great. And Commissioner Hahn.
I wasn't here for the procedural history in the case, but I will be supporting the order in accordance with the Supreme Court's decision. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Great. Thank you. Great. All those in favor of supporting that order, version number 1, please say aye.
Aye.
That is approved by a vote of 5-0. Next up, we have file number EO 2024-0002, the matter of the request for customer account data production from Evergy Metro, DBA Evergy Missouri Metro, and Evergy Missouri West. On the 3rd of January, the staff of the commission filed a motion to compel regarding certain data responses or DRs as we refer to them. In particular, staff argues that Evergy's responses to date have been insufficient, incomplete, and inadequate. Staff argues that the subject matter of the present case is whether Evergy has or is capable of complying with the terms of the August 2022 stipulation, which respect to its data retention practices, which Evergy entered into to resolve a particular issue in their last rate case. Evergy responded that the subject's data request include much of the same data which the commission will have to consider in the evidentiary hearing. Evergy also claims that compiling the requested information could cost upwards of $100 million. The commission finds that the arguments for and against staff's motion to compel are basically the same as the underlying issues in the case for determination before the commission. The burden or expense of the proposed discovery appears to require litigating the issue of a case at the discovery stage and therefore outweighs its likely benefit at this point. Therefore, this order will deny staff's motion to compel. And I would recommend that we approve that order, version number 2. Commissioner Coleman.
I support the order.
Commissioner Holzman.
I'm in support of the order.
Great. Commissioner Kolkmeyer.
I support the order.
And Commissioner Hahn.
I also wholeheartedly support the order. I am concerned that the level and amount of data requested here in this case, one of the requests was 10 years of data where 5 years was supplied. Seems fairly burdensome, I would say, especially to go along with the cost. So I am in support today, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Great. Thank you for your comments. Okay, all those in favor of supporting that order, version number 2, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
That is approved by a vote of 5-0. Next up is file number EA 2023-0286, matter of the application of Union Electric Company, DBA Ameren, Missouri, for permission and approval and certificate of public convenience and necessity authorizing it to construct renewable generation facilities. On January 2nd, Ameren, Missouri filed a motion to compel and a request for expedited treatment. According to the motion to compel, Ameren, Missouri served staff with data request 189 on December 6th, which sought information on communications between staff and Pike County representatives on the Bowling Green Solar Project, including any communications regarding property taxes or a Chapter 100 financing agreement. On the 8th of December, staff objected to data request 189 in total, stating that it calls for items protected under the work product privilege with no allegation by Ameren, Missouri that it is a substantial need for the materials and cannot obtain the information from some source other than staff without undue hardship. So this order will direct Ameren, Missouri to respond to this order, making a showing that it has a substantial need of the materials in preparation of its case, and that it is unable without undue hardship to obtain the substantive equivalent of the materials by other means. This order will also direct staff to provide the regulatory law judge presiding over the case all documents responsive to DR 189, identifying any document for which it asserts a privilege and the rationale behind its assertion to examine in camera. And the commission will delegate authority to the regulatory law judge presiding over this case to make a ruling on disclosure of the materials. And I would recommend that we approve this order, version number 1. Commissioner Coleman.
Support the order.
Great. Commissioner Holzman.
I support the order.
Great. Commissioner Kolkmeyer.
I'm in support.
And Commissioner Hahn.
I think this order does strike a good balance between compelling the documents, having the judge decide what should be provided. And I do think that if we are going, staff or Ameren are going to say that they do not need to provide responsive documents, that a privilege log should be attached to that. I know one party in this case did attach that privilege log. So I'd hope that the party opposite of that would also look to provide that privilege log if they want to keep those documents privileged. With that, Mr. Chair, I'm supporting the order as well. Thank you.
Great. Thank you very much. Okay, all those in favor of supporting that order, version number 1, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
That is approved by a vote of 5-0. Appears that I have skipped an order in my turning of the page. So we will go back and do file number TO 2023-0436. This is in the matter of the investigation of Aristotle United Communications LLC related to the Connect America Fund Phase 2 auction. So on June 22nd, the staff of the commission filed a motion to open and investigate docket and staff memorandum. Staff asserted that Aristotle has not met its build-out milestones required to continue to receive Connect America Fund 2 funding. The commission convened an evidentiary hearing on December 12th. During that hearing, the commission submitted the testimony of 2 witnesses and received 2 exhibits into evidence. Aristotle has spent CAF 2 funds on telecommunications equipment dedicated for use solely in Missouri. Thus, the commission concludes Aristotle has used the CAF 2 funding for the provision, maintenance, and upgrading of facilities and services for which the support is intended. So this order certifies Aristotle to continue to receive CAF 2 funding, directs staff to notify the FCC of Aristotle's certification, and directs Aristotle to file the results of the USAC audit within 30 days of receipt of those results. And I would recommend that we approve this order version number 2. Commissioner Coleman.
I support the order.
Great. Commissioner Holzman.
Yeah, I support the order. I'm also glad that we're going to monitor this into the future.
Great. Thank you. And Commissioner Kolkmeyer.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Like I said last week, I have some concerns here because they have no customers, they have no infrastructure in Missouri, and continue to ask for more money to build out their infrastructure in Missouri. So I will be supporting it. However, I strongly urge the staff to keep an eye on this. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I will be in support.
Great. Thank you. Commissioner Hahn.
Also in support.
Great. All those in favor of supporting that order, version number 2, please say aye.
Aye.
That is approved by a vote of 5-0. All right. Looks like next up we have case discussion. That is in file number EO 2024-0002. Judge Hatcher.
Thank you, Chairman. I have provided a memo to the commissioners that outlines the roughly 26 issues that the parties have presented. The memo contains the position statements of the parties for each issue. And also, I just want to let the commissioners know this memo does contain confidential information if you decide to discuss it any further today. Thank you, Chairman. That's all I have.
Great. Thank you, Judge. Thank you for the memo. Yeah, I have no questions, for the judge. Do have some questions for the parties that hopefully they'll be prepared to answer those about the, about this data. And, just we'll have questions during the hearing. Commissioners, do you have any comments or questions for the judge?
Just so I can better understand this case, it doesn't appear to me that the parties agree to the list of issues. Is that right?
That's a very good question, Commissioner. The parties describe 2 portions, to my eye, slightly differently. Staff describes issues 1 through 7 individually. Each portion of what was staff's original 1 request, they've broken down. Evergy responded to staff's original request, which was in the direct testimony of witness Lange, which is attached to the memo. That request, or request number 1, is an entire paragraph that combined all 7 of what is now staff's top 7 issues. However, the reason that staff did that is because the agreement that they're operating under said that the company would provide an answer for each individual request. Individual estimate of the cost to provide each set of requested data. So I don't know if that is significant or if the parties have agreed how to proceed to interpret that. That could become a decision point at a later point in time. But right now, it just appears that they're taking that paragraph number 1 from Ms. Lange's testimony in the prior rate case, and one party is dividing it into 7 separate issues. The other party is lumping them together. The other is in issues, I believe, 8 or 9, that had combined several of the issues together from Ms. Lange's testimony that were previously separate.
And it's my understanding from the memo too that Evergy brought up issues that staff otherwise did not. I guess is that usual?
When
Normal, usual, unusual?
in the normal course of business and commission practice, typically parties do come together and produce a single issue list. It's not uncommon that parties cannot agree at this stage what the issues actually are. We try and encourage the parties to find at least an agreement on what the issues are. And when they're not, it certainly creates a lot of confusion and extra work for the commission.
Thank you, Judge. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Any other commissioners have questions for the judge?
What day did we say this hearing was going to start?
Tuesday and Wednesday. I have scheduled it at 10 a.m. for a start time, and that's to allow travel for the commissioners from their homes. Also, Wednesday, we do have an agenda scheduled for the commissioners at 10:15. Sorry to jump ahead and step on your line, Chairman, but we do have that agenda, so we will almost certainly be starting late and delaying the hearing to allow for that agenda.
Thank you, Judge.
Judge, you're doing a great job of scheduling. You want to just finish us out there?
No, thank you. I don't have any more scheduling.
Well, thank you, Judge. We appreciate the memo and the information and the explanations, and look forward to that hearing, like you said, starting on the 30th of January. So why don't we go ahead and just dive right into our scheduling, and then we can then adjourn after the presentation. So moving on to scheduling, we have on Thursday, tomorrow, the 25th, we have a special agenda scheduled for 10:15 a.m. We may not need that, and if we don't, we will announce the cancellation of that. But that is scheduled for tomorrow at 10:15 a.m. To see if we actually need to keep that. And on Tuesday, the 30th, as the judge has mentioned, going into the 31st, Wednesday, we have that evidentiary hearing in EO 2024-0002, starting at 10 a.m. in room 310. As Judge mentioned, we also have agenda on the 31st at 10:15 a.m. And then on Monday, February 5th, running through February 9th, we are scheduled to have an evidentiary hearing in EO 2023-0276 and EO 2023-0277. That's the matter of the 5th prudence review of the cost subject to the commission approved fuel adjustment clause for Evergy Metro, DBA Evergy Missouri Metro. That is scheduled to start at 9 a.m. in room 310, Commission's headquarters on Monday the 5th. Wednesday the 7th, we have agenda at 10:15 a.m. Tuesday the 13th, running through Thursday the 15th of February, we have an evidentiary hearing in EA 2023-0286 in the matter of the application of Union Electric Company, DBA Ameren, Missouri, for permission and approval of certificates of public convenience and necessity, authorizing it to construct renewable generation facilities. That is starting at 9 a.m. in room 310, Commission's headquarters on the 13th. Thursday, the 15th, we have agenda at 10:15 a.m. Tuesday, the 20th of February, we have a local public hearing in SR 2024-0206 in the matter of United Services, Inc.'s rate increase request. That is a WebEx only local public hearing, and that will begin at 6 p.m. on the 20th of February. And then on the 22nd of February, Thursday, we have agenda at 10:15 a.m. Commissioners, are there any questions, concerns, changes to the scheduling? All right, well, that concludes our formal part of the agenda, and we've done our scheduling. So next up, we have a presentation from Renew Missouri. And so if they want to go ahead and come to the table and take over the WebEx, and then we will adjourn after the presentation is finished.
Yeah. No. Well, thank you very much for having me, Commission and Mr. Chairman. My name's Andrew Linares. I'm from Renew Missouri. We're an intervener at the Public Service Commission and quite often, and you may recognize us. This is Tori Cheatham, also from Renew Missouri. We are located in Renew Missouri's St. Louis office, and we've been engaged in a project around energy burdens for the past 2 years or so. It's a 3-year project, and it stems from a series of orders approving stipulation terms that the commission approved several years ago. So we thought it'd be prudent to update you all on our progress here and show you what we've been working on and get your input and your questions. So that's what we're here to do, and hopefully we won't take too long, and we'll get to your questions as quickly as we can. Let's see if this works here. There we go. Okay. So we do have a couple tools. Hopefully we can look at Judge Dipple if those work. I'll let you know when the time comes there. But first, I also wanted to introduce Dana Gray. Dana Gray is with Tower Grove Neighborhoods CDC, located in St. Louis City. And Dana is the state lead for the Missouri Energy Efficiency for All Coalition, which if you've been involved in any of the MIA proceedings, the energy efficiency proceedings, some MIA parties have been part of those stakeholder discussions and cases. And I wanted you all to just be able to meet Dana and put a name to a face because she's state lead for that organization. So.
And we've been leading the low income work group meetings.
Yeah.
Okay, so Renew Missouri is the lead on this project. And we also are working with Consumers Council of Missouri. John Kaufman is counsel for them. We are sort of leading the data gathering and analysis part of this project, and Consumers Council is leading the community engagement piece, which we'll talk about in a little bit. As an overview, we received some grant funding from Missouri Foundation for Health, which is active over sort of eastern Missouri and central Missouri, to study energy burdens, first in the St. Louis metro region, and now our project is expanded to statewide, with the aim of reducing energy burden, identifying disparities in energy burdens and reducing them for vulnerable populations. And in order to do that, we are going to develop these web tools that would have a graphic display or map of differences in energy burdens. And that analysis would quantify those disparities, but also compare them to other factors like health outcomes, the age of home, the geographic distribution, racial affiliation, a lot of other demographic factors to see what commonalities we could find, what links we could find. The other part of the project, obviously, is to reach out to communities and gather their input throughout the process. Here's the quick scope of work. And we are coming up on year 3 now. And the first phase was sort of making sure we could gather all the data. A lot of the data is at the census tract level from the federal census or from Department of Health and Senior Services here in Missouri. And crucially, our tool uses real utility data. So that's been one of the major things that we're still working on to this day, is to get
real residential electric and gas data so that our energy burden analysis is accurate. Year 2 has been spent developing these tools, which hopefully we'll be able to show you in a little bit. We have an Energy Burden Explorer tool, which is the mapping tool. And then the Energy Resource Navigator, which we think is a resource that's been lacking in the state. Essentially a place where you can go to see all of the different energy efficiency and billing assistance programs that utilities and government sources offer. And that tool is meant to prioritize those, simplify them for anybody who wants to use one of them, and kind of summarize them. And then year 3, we really want to enact this project in real programs, in changes, not just more funding necessarily, but more targeted deployment of these programs, so that maybe we're reducing free ridership, and maybe we're reaching populations that really need the programs the most, and we're reducing arrearages, reducing disconnections, things like that. Okay, so I'm going to hand off to Tori, and she'll explain to you what we're talking about when we say this phrase energy burden. It's a hot topic recently.
Thanks, Andrew. So yeah, I'm going to give a little context on energy burden and provide some scope for the project. So energy burden is often defined as the percentage of someone's income that they spend on their energy costs annually. On average, in the US, households have around a 3% energy burden, or that's how much they spend annually on energy costs. However, low-income households usually spend around 8.6%, so that's almost 3 times higher than the average. So we're seeing that oftentimes low-income households are just, on average, have a much higher energy burden than those who are on average. As I mentioned earlier, low-income households have higher energy burden, and oftentimes it's minority communities. African American households on average have 45% higher energy burden than non-Hispanic white families. So there's a component here that often disadvantaged communities have experienced higher energy burden. You can go to the next slide. This slide's kind of more specific to St. Louis, but we are hoping to expand this project all Missouri-wide. But this just highlights that specifically in St. Louis, there are very high energy burdens. St. Louis is actually ranked 6th highest out of the 48 largest cities who have an extremely high energy burden. And then this is also a really important aspect, is the health impacts of those who are in energy burden areas. Energy efficiency, there's a lot of studies and research that link it to certain respiratory illnesses like COPD and asthma. And so, these poor quality homes are, have less energy efficiency and are often associated with these higher respiratory illnesses. And so this is another factor and value that we are looking at with this study. And then on the community engagement, so this is a really important piece to our project here. So we have partnered with Consumers Council of Missouri, and they've been a very key partner in this project. Through our project, Consumers Council and Renew Missouri has formed this community advisory committee, and this committee is comprised of community members who either have witnessed or experienced energy burns in their neighborhoods. And what we want to do with this committee, and what we've been doing, has been meeting with them monthly and basically educating and getting their input and really involving them in the process of this project. And this has been a really key part in some of the decisions we've made in forming the tool and the resource navigator. And we anticipate in the long-term goal of this project is for them to be able to participate in the long-term policy reform and in the process as well. So that has been a very key part of this project as well.
Okay, so as I alluded to, we are developing these web platforms, which we'd like to be accessible by everybody in the state. One is this mapping tool that'll display differences in energy burdens, income, race,
other demographic factors for at the census tract level. And the other one is this list of programs that will roughly calculate based on income whether you qualify for a program and prioritize our recommendation for how you approach billing assistance and energy efficiency. And Judge, I don't know if we're able to look at this. I think you pulled it up earlier. If you can, the browser. Either way, if this presentation is shared with members of the commission, you're free to click around on this. Although we ask that you not share it because it's not really live yet, but we are working on it. So if you wanted to scroll down just a bit, Judge. So this is an example that right now we've got Ameren, Missouri, electric data integrated. Right now we're working with Spire very closely to get gas data as well for Spire East and Spire West. And just recently heard that we're going to be able to work with Evergy as well. Excuse me. Yeah.
Zoom in on it.
You're free to zoom in.
Columbia, Kansas City,
Correct.
Hannibal.
Yes. And
Okay.
St. Louis obviously you're going to have tighter census tracts because the population density is higher. But if you hover over one of these tracts, and we may give this an aesthetic, but you'll see the monthly electricity cost, you'll see the percentage energy burden, and then as you scroll down, you'll be able to see the population, the percentage of children, the percentage of seniors, percentage low income, percentage unemployment, percentage with no high school diploma. We're going to have health data as well, incidence of childhood asthma and incidence of hospitalization and ER visit due to respiratory illnesses, because the health correlation here is very strong with energy burden. Anyway, the racial breakdown for each census tract will be there. The reason we chose census tract rather than zip code or rather than just sharing all the meter data is obviously privacy, that aggregate for reasons of privacy. But the census tract allows us to compare to all this other data, demographic data, because most data is not gathered at the zip code level, it's gathered at the census tract. So this will allow communities to come and see how their particular neighborhood or town compares with the average. There's going to be a corresponding report when we launch this site that some of our allies are putting together that will draw a bunch of these conclusions and be able to say communities with a 7 or 8% energy burden are this much more likely to be low income and African American and have X amount of incidence of childhood asthma. So we want to be able to draw these conclusions and comparisons, not just for their own sake, but so that we know how to more equitably and judiciously deploy resources. We have all these new federal resources now, in addition to all the utility and state resources, and it behooves us to more strategically deploy them. So that's the idea behind this project. Time to look at the other link, but I can let Tori ask about that. Yeah, let's see if this works here.
So that information that we just looked at was real numbers.
Yes, yes, correct. Although it doesn't include Spire yet.
Okay,
So
sure.
really, I mean, as this last month has shown us, the gas is a huge percentage burden in certain months, right? When it's really cold, gas costs can really spike, and make sure that's integrated. Tori, you want to talk about the navigator?
And I also say we're not including water or sewer either.
Correct.
This is right now. Yeah, so we felt that it's great that we have the mapping tool, but we also want to create a one-stop shop for people to access and be educated on what is currently available. So this is we call it our energy resource navigator. Essentially, we've created a rough income qualifier tool for calculation. So if you can scroll just a little bit, someone could fill this out, and then it would basically populate a list of programs that this person could be income qualified for. We have split these two the assistance programs into bill assistance and energy efficiency, and we also highlighting energy efficiency was really important because we know that prevents people from needing bill assistance in the first place. So if you scroll down a little bit more, we have linked all the key programs that are available statewide utility and federal programs. And right now these are just Ameren Inspire programs. We're planning on adding Evergy as well. And that calculation, that income qualifier tool basically will also have a zip code function as well. So people all around Missouri should be able to access this tool. We plan to add in some IRA information when that is more readily available. So this is a continually evolving navigator tool, but we think that this could be a very good companion to the mapping tool as well.
And go back to the presentation, I think. There we go. Oh, you might need to go back to start recently. There we go. Thank you. Okay, a little bit more information on how we're conducting this analysis. So we have hired our data partners, a data consultant called Powered City. That's actually the URL for their organization as well. They work with municipalities in various sustainability and climate processes, tools. They're data experts. They've built our mapping site so far. They've gathered a lot of the census data, and they've worked closely with utilities to make sure that we're isolating actual residences and not small businesses or vacant buildings. So they've been really indispensable here. Like I said, this uses real electric and gas utility data, which has been a major pain to collect, but we've had success. Ameren has been terrific to work with. I think they were the first out of the gate, and we've been able to work with their data team, Megan Hegger's team, to aggregate by census tract, which was difficult because zip code is obviously every meter has a zip code. The census tract requires you to use a shape file and squash the data into that form, but they've been able to do it for us. And from them, we've collected usage, billing, and disconnection data at the census tract level. And this allows us to perform the energy burden analysis for all residential customers without violating privacy concerns. Spire has voluntarily participated in this project, and they're following Ameren's lead. We're getting closer to a final data set for residential meters from them. And like I said, the gas data is really important to include here, so you can see that spike in December, January, February when energy burdens really grow due to the cold. And Evergy, we just heard, we've had some difficulty with them, but we just heard that they're able to work with us on aggregating at the census tract level. So that's really good news. We have a little bit more fundraising to do to make sure that our data consultant is empowered to make the mapping tool work out there, and we're hoping to expand basically statewide eventually. And just a quick note here, I have the case numbers noted. This work does stem from orders that the commission approved, so we're really grateful that we've been able to do something with those orders. The Ameren 2021 rate case included a term in the stipulation that committed Ameren to working with us on energy burden data. And then the Evergy 2022 rate case 0129 included a similar term. So I just wanted to bring that back around. This comes from an order that the commission approved, and we're really grateful for it. To conclude here, and then I'm happy to entertain your questions, and we can go back to look at any of those resources if you'd like. But really, the idea here is if we're going to have these billing assistance and energy efficiency programs that are intended to, particularly on the energy efficiency side, they're intended to reduce the energy burden or reduce the risk of arrearage, the risk of disconnection. That's bad for utilities. That's obviously bad for the customers. If we're going to have those programs, we should really be moving away from a model that is a come one, come all, put it on the customer to come to the program. And we should be deploying the program strategically to the people for whom the programs are intended and will make the most difference. I think this is a great way to reduce overall arrearages, to reduce the need for disconnection and reconnection. It'll reduce the need for additional social services because of this health energy nexus and connection to other demographic problems that we see out there. Energy is really at the center in a lot of ways of all those things. And if we can use not even any more resources than we have, but just the resources we have now in a smarter way, looking geographically and looking at communities that need the resources the most, I think that's better for everybody. So that's what we're up to with this program, and happy to take any questions from commissioners on this.
Hey, great. Thank you, Andrew. I really appreciate that. I just had a quick question. Back on your second or third slide where you had the blue bars showing the different demographics, you had a bar that just had renting for people that were renting that had a a higher burden of. Can you break that down and to see how much? Okay, so what is the correlation of so many people that have a high energy burden that are renting that maybe are on a low income? If you had to attack one area, can you kind of parse that data out?
Yeah, you'd like to see more. You'd like to see a parsing of the rental class or the people who are renters, and how many are low income, or how many have health concerns, or what exactly would you like to see then?
Well, when I was looking at that slide, it was like, okay, with limited resources, where would you tack first? Where would you try to get the most bang? And when I saw the rental piece, it was like, how many of that are renting are also in the other categories of high energy burdens and things of that nature? Because I know we've always struggled with the incentivizing of multifamily properties, because the incentive doesn't go to the person paying the rent, it goes to the landlord. And is there an incentive for them to make things more energy efficiency? So that if there's 6% of the people on your graph there that are renting, households that is a higher than average, how much would attacking that impact the low income in the median Black household and the median St. Louis household? Just more of how to get most bang for your buck on your dollars spent.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that question and bringing up the distinction between renting and non-renting. I mean, I think it's well known that it should be logical that low income folks and energy burdened households are going to disproportionately be renters, right? Takes a certain amount of wealth to be a homeowner. And then the further distinction there is between single family and multifamily. And I think that link is even stronger among multifamily. Is that if you live in a multifamily building, you're more likely to be low income, you're more likely to be a certain race, you're more likely to experience health problems, or be at risk for disconnection, or be in severe arrears. So I take your comment there. There might be some things we can do. I mean, certainly at the level of energy efficiency programs, there's a lot more to do to crack the nut of multifamily, given the split incentive issue. The split incentive being, if you are paying your utility bills and you're a multifamily customer, you don't own the unit and are not able to make all the improvements necessary, but the landlord doesn't pay the utility bill, so it doesn't have the financial incentive. Yes, so I mean, and there are answers to how to approach this. That a lot of things we've done in Missouri have gone down the road to addressing that, and other states have done other things too. So, but there may be some things we can do with our mapping tool to further highlight, and with the report that we're putting out, to further highlight the challenges and the correlations in data with renters specifically. So thank you for raising that, Mr.
No
Chairman.
problem. No, I appreciate the info. It's, I mean, it's excellent. I was playing around on your website too. I mean, it's just, that's great granular data to really kind of see, see stuff. So I think that's really great that you're putting that together. So I appreciate the presentation.
Thank you.
Commissioners, you guys have any questions or comments for the team there?
Yeah, Andrew, my question is relative to this ability to secure more funding. The two certainly, I think, is going to go a long way in helping to identify a variety of areas that help is needed in. But when you talk about securing more funding, LIHEAP funds come down, they run out, people go to these community action agencies and nonprofits, and they're always out of money. So where else, and that's federal money. So where else do you think you're going to be able to identify additional funding? And I guess we're always going to have to be worried about whether or not the pot is large enough for this money. So what are your ideas there?
Yeah. Thank you for the question. I am mostly a state advocate and not a federal one, but there's been a lot of federal action around this stuff recently. So that is the most interesting thing recently. But I am also, I'm a clean energy advocate. So I'm always going to turn to energy efficiency first as the intervention that makes the most sense to start, because if rather than throw money at a very inefficient property, a wasteful property, we should button up the envelope and make sure the appliances and the HVAC are really efficient before we do that, in my view. So that's where I would like to focus. I think solving the split incentive issue that we just talked about is really important. And this is all prior to talking about more funding, right? But I would always argue that we could use more funding for this type of stuff. Our MIA law in the state stipulates that you don't have to adhere to the same cost effectiveness threshold as other energy efficiency programs if it's towards the low income population. So that gives us the opportunity of covering more of the incremental cost or covering more of the measure cost with that incentive, which makes it more likely that landlords will install things. And that's a question of not just more program funding, but more a higher incentive level. In terms of your specific question of like where might other places be to get more funding, I think the federal changes recently is the most interesting thing, which involves a discussion with the Division of Energy over at DNR, which is tasked with applying for the majority of those funds. And there's a lot of amazing opportunities there, man. It's a flood of money if we're sophisticated enough to apply for it. So that would be my primary answer is the IRA legislation.
And the chairman brought up the rental
Yes.
situation. For years and years and years, we've all been aware of the disparity in energy costs and how it affects low income houses, particularly for renters. So I'm also very interested and appreciated your response to the chairman regarding, bringing those owners of those properties into the fold. But again, my big concern there is when you talk about renewables and going in and changing, out for more energy efficiency, energy efficient appliances and equipment. In the end, that tenant moves and they're going somewhere else, and we're starting all over again somewhere else if their income situation hasn't and
Yes,
become any better.
correct for that tenant. Yes, I mean, but that property is now permanently improved for the next tenant, which I think is positive. You know, one of the important things that I know we're discussing in St. Louis and in Kansas City and maybe in Columbia and some other places is the importance of disclosure of utility costs. Now, this is, you know, local municipalities and county governments can mandate this in a certain way, or they can create a portal where utilities can, the commission could order a utility to disclose those and upload them to a local dashboard. But the key concept there is if you're able to disclose the energy cost, this gives renters the ability to know what they're walking into before they sign a lease agreement. If you're going to have a $400 bill in January, that's something that could inform a rental choice. And it's just not something like a miles per gallon sticker for a car that typically isn't part of the rental experiences, that disclosure. So I think that's a very interesting area to look at, to give tenants a little choice and bring a little responsibility to landlords to make their properties efficient so they can compete in the market. I don't know.
That's a good idea. I like that. I think that's certainly something to look into.
Mr. Chairman, I have a question. A couple quick
Yeah,
questions.
just jump on in, guys.
Thank you, first off, for the presentation and all the work to put this together. What did you say that the time frame was for when that map is going to reflect Kansas City's area?
Yes. So as I said, we just heard that Evergy is going to be able to provide this data. Given our experience with Ameren, there's a lot that goes into excluding meters that we really shouldn't be viewing as households, whether they're abandoned or whether they're actually small businesses and they don't really reflect residential usage. So that process took us a while. I believe Evergy has said they're going to be able to get us data midway through March or so. And then we've got to go out and fundraise to make sure that we can continue working on this project. And our data consultant is compensated and everything. But assuming we're able to do both of those things, we'd like to launch this tool prior to that, but then we, maybe relaunch it when Kansas City data is in place. I'd love to see that in place this summer. I think that's a good goal. And then, other areas, the city utility, or I guess Empire would be the next, Empire or Liberty would be the next big utility. City utilities in Springfield, Independence, Columbia, other large utilities. I'd love to work with the rural electric co-ops and make this a true statewide tool. But yeah, Commissioner, as to your question on Kansas City, we will already have the Spire data earlier than that, and we're hoping to have Evergy data this spring. So I'd love to launch the tool with Kansas City included this summer.
Okay, I have a separate question that doesn't necessarily have to do with the presentation. When we talk about energy efficiency programs, incentives for folks to invest in energy efficiencies, do you find that, first off, I know there's a federal tax credit for investing in energy efficiency when it comes to like doors and windows and house items that you can change. Is that right? Is that means tested? Or is that credit available for everybody with just a cap on how much you can turn in?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, the tax credits are separate from the rebates, which are approved under the IRA that won't be available for a while, which is separate from additional federal resources. Like there's the federal LIWAP program, the weatherization program. And those are a whole set of different measures that don't have a customer
contribution associated with it. The tax credit, I believe, is not income qualified. I don't believe that has an income qualification associated with it, but the IRA programs do. So there's the HOMES program, which I'm not going to remember what these acronyms stand for.
Right,
There's
sure.
the program. There's the HOMES program, which Division of Energy will be applying for the Missouri share of funds. Those do have significant income qualified portions. I think if you max it out and you are maximally qualified for the largest award, it's like you can get like $8,000 or something for 14 grand for the whole home, and then like 8,000 just for the HVAC. I might be
Yeah, and it's
misstating that.
middle income,
Yeah,
not just low income. There's
there's
it's a
several
pretty high level.
graduated.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So that one is definitely means tested. I mean, they're income qualified.
And do we have, I know that those are federal programs. Do we have any state incentives that are available for folks to, repair their windows or do an energy audit or, that type of activity?
I don't believe we have like monetary incentives. I think there are a couple lending programs. Division of Energy operates their program. There's a link deposit program. There's also some money available under the ERA authority, financing authority. And there used to be a energy efficiency, Commissioner Holzman, you might remember this from your time in the House or the Senate. There used to be an energy efficiency tax deduction at the state level. But I think
And then we also had a holiday too. Is the holiday still in effect?
Yes.
This is going back in time.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So back to.
So yeah, I think that tax deduction or tax credit has expired. And it stipulated that you can't participate in utility sponsored efficiency programs. So
So to tie this back together to your presentation, this information we just talked about, the incentives and the programs to help folks get this done, is your mapping and the data that you're bringing together, is that going to tie into or connect with, if I'm a residential consumer and I get on and I use your tool, am I going to be able to realize from your tool that I qualify for, some assistance with my HVAC or my windows or whatever it might be?
Yeah, I mean, we want to have front and center links when you're looking at your neighborhood or your census tract. Take action now, and it'll link you to our resources page, which we're hosting on Renew Missouri's site right now. I mean, it could be a state resource. It could be housed on a state website as well eventually. That's that prioritized list of billing assistance and energy efficiency programs that you can filter by zip code or by income level. And that has like our quick explanation of like, this is what this is for. This is how we recommend using it, and prioritized based on our recommendation. And that'll have links for how you apply to it to receive those service under those programs. Yeah, I mean, that's our objective, is to get people to take action. And realize.
So my last question then, do you have a snapshot of where we are as a state, or at least where your map's going to cover, so that way you can evaluate 3 years from now all of the effort that was spent on this education and this tool? Have we moved to where you want to be in terms of efficiency?
Okay, that's a great question. We are using 2021 utility data, and that marries up with the 2020 census data. So there's a little stagger there, but it's as good as we can do. That will be a benchmark when the report associated with the tool's launch comes out. That will be somewhat of a benchmark that we could look back on, and utilities could perform their own energy burden analysis. They could look at rates of disconnection. They could look at arrearages and compare, whether it's 10 years or 5 years, they could compare and see how their course corrections have impacted
communities and impacted all those data points. I think it's a great idea. I'd love to see this program go that way.
All right. Thank you guys for the presentation.
Thank you.
Anyone else have any questions or comments on the presentation?
No, just want to thank them for the coming out today and presenting this. Very eye-opening.
Yeah, and I think it's great that you're following up on commission orders and following through with the stuff that's in our orders and then bringing us back a worthwhile product. So a hat tip to you guys for that one. So great information. Looking forward to the rollout of the tool and the encompassing of Kansas City and you know, anytime you can just have more real data and information, it helps people make better decisions, and you can see correlations and causations and understand the difference between the two and know where to put your effort for changing the outcome. So thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
So that being all the business for the Missouri Public Service Commission, we'll go ahead and we will stand adjourned. So thank you, everyone.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, guys.